Howdy, Immortallium here, and today I'm doing the answers portion of my Q&A. So before I get started, I just want to thank everyone for sending in their questions. There's some very good questions in there, so I'm hoping that you guys will enjoy. The other thing I want to just say is I'm hoping that you will find this entertaining. I hope you will find this educational on both myself and also on anime and manga in general, as well as maybe some other stuff. So anyway, let's get this started. I'm going to do this in order of, who asked first and work my way to who asked last. So that starts off with Net1340. First question, how do you feel about the fandom in general? Now, I'm assuming that refers to anime and manga fans because it's in the anime and manga slot. So, how do I feel about the anime and manga fandom? I'm going to leave one aspect of that to another question, just because I think it's better to speak about the thing I'm thinking of in another question. But anyway, let's start off with the positives of what I think about the fandom. It is most certainly among the most passionate fandom I've ever seen. I don't think there's any kind of denying that there. And of course that makes me feel very good about being a part of the fandom and helping people, continue their passion for this medium, these mediums, I should say. And I also love how communicative so many of the fans are. They're not just kind of those fans who, just kind of stay in their rooms and don't talk to anyone. There's so many people who want to, go out there and discuss, what happened in the newest so-and-so series with all the other people and, find out what may happen and what might have happened, etc., etc. So those are among the most positive things I consider of the fandom. The negatives of the fandom is that a lot of them can be quite ignorant. When I say ignorant, I mean one thing that really annoys me, and actually I'll give you an example here, was back in the MCM Expo last year, May. There was a Q&A with Manga Entertainment, and there was the last two questions I remember. Actually, if you check out that podcast there, actually you'll hear me asking a question on Dragon Ball and whether Kix has helped the sales of it. Anyway, the last two questions, there was a girl I remember who asked a question, an opinion of a spoiler, one could say, of a later part of Naruto, and the whole room went silent, and the guy who I think it was Jeremy Graves, yeah, was like, I did not know that, and he was very sad about it, because he hadn't known about it, it was spoiled for him. So I found that quite disappointing. I can understand why she'd think that was okay, but she obviously didn't know that Manga Entertainment only distribute the Naruto anime, that they're not up to date with the manga, etc., etc. So I found that annoying. And then the last question of that was, them asking, do you know when the next Dragon Ball game will come out? And I'm just thinking to myself, how the hell do Manga Entertainment know when the next Dragon Ball game will come out? So that kind of ignorance, and that also, fans also not realizing, that Western companies most often don't have any involvement with the actual production of anime, and they just kind of think, oh, I'll get it from this distributor because, their other stuff is good. I find that kind of ignorant, but they can also be quite knowledgeable. I just want to point out those who have been around for a long time. So that's kind of my opinion. I want to discuss something about the fandom later, but it'll be a part of another question. So anyway, next part is, where do you work? I don't work. I have not become employed yet. I'm still in college, studying. Actually, that's a part of a later question as well, so I'll wait till there. But I'm in college right now, getting ready for later employment. And where did you get the idea to start all of your videos the same way, saying now, howdy at the start and bye-bye at the end? Now, I know about the howdy and the bye-bye. The now, I think that might just be the, the way I speak. I guess when I'm about to start talking about something, I kind of go, now, just, I don't know, it's part of my speech. Anyway, about the howdy and the bye-bye, that came from, my previous experience of YouTubers. One of the most important things about creating a YouTube channel is that you have some level of consistency because that actually, you know, helps make people comfortable. You know, like they're going, oh, you know, he says his catchphrase at the beginning. You know, that's made me kind of get into this more. So that's an important thing. And then, of course, it's important that you end off in a kind of consistent manner as well. So that actually kind of developed over time. From what I remember, the earlier videos, I didn't have any of that consistent elements there. And then as time went on, I kind of added that in. So that's kind of where that came from. The now is just kind of how I speak. I didn't intend for that. I didn't actually think about the now until this question was asked. So thank you for making me think about it. I've never noticed before. Okay, the next person to ask was Average Anime Fan. His first question is favorite manga series. Now, I did a video on my, you know, top 10 manga before, and it hasn't overly changed since much. It hasn't changed that much since then, but I will point out a couple of series that I consider to be among the best that I have read, and ones that I would highly recommend people check out. So first off, I'm going to recommend With the Light, Raise an Autistic Child. It is an amazing series, and in fact, whereas I usually only review manga series that I've read from the beginning to end without interruption, With the Light I love so much that I'm probably going to do a review of it very soon. I finished it recently, and I want to do like an actual review, even though there was like huge gaps from when I was reading it, just because I love the series so much. So With the Light is one of them. Death Note is another. I think the Death Note manga is actually far better paced than the anime. And it's just a great series. It was, I think, the very first manga series that I ever actually finished. So when I say finished, yeah, that I read all the way through. I did read a bit of manga before that, but Death Note was the first complete one I read, and it was amazing. It gripped me so much, and absolutely loved it. So, Death Note. I'm also going to recommend Ayako. Ayako is, I consider to be the best Osamu Tezuka work that I've read so far. It is kind of, it's set like in about between 1945 and 1975, I believe. So about a 30-year period. And there's like all these incorporation of real historical events along with, you know, a corrupt family and all these family disputes. And it is you know, an amazing work. I have heard people criticize it, and I can understand if people don't like Ayako. It's quite dark and depressing, and a bit hard to enjoy at points, but it is a brilliant work, so I would highly recommend that. And last thing I'll recommend manga-wise is Girlfriends, which is probably the best romantic manga I've read. It is a Yuri, and Yuri has a bit of a lot of people have an issue with Yuri because, you know, there's so much Yuri out there that is simply like, you know, basically pornography. But Girlfriends is an amazing series. The two girls in it, their relationship develops, you know, over time. They don't just suddenly fall in love with each other and start having sex. They actually, you know, get to know each other. They start feeling these feelings. And they're confused by these feelings. And actually, one thing I absolutely love about it is the fact that they actually do struggle with their feelings and they try to hide it from other people. Whereas in so many other series, like for example, one of my biggest issues with Heart of Thomas, which is one of the earliest examples of Shonen Ai, is how, you know, kind of normal it seems to a lot of the other boys in it that these characters are all gay. Like set in 1950s Germany, like they should be like absolutely bullied and beaten the crap out of and everything, but it only goes to like, you know, a nickname and that's it. So I actually really love the way Girlfriends handles its romance and everything. So definitely I recommend all those series. Those are among the best manga series that I've ever read. The next question is hobbies outside of anime and manga. Well, if you've seen my room tours, you'll know that I'm a big movie fan. I also love to read books. Video games, absolutely love video games. These days, I'm kind of more kind of leaning towards Japanese video games, mainly because that's among like the JRPG is pretty much my favorite genre of video game. When I was young, I absolutely played the crap out of the Final Fantasy series. It's only recently that I've kind of actually looked at the JRPG genre overall and kind of decided there's a lot more to it than Final Fantasy. I played Dragon Quest VIII recently. I've started getting into the Tales games. Catherine was amazing. So I love those kind of games. I'm also a big fan of a video game series called Total War. I haven't actually gotten any of the more recent installments of Total War, but Medieval 2 Total War is such an amazing game. It's one that I would highly recommend people check out. And other video games, well, back in the past I was a huge World of Warcraft addict. Now I'm not subscribed to it. Maybe I'll subscribe again when the expansion pack comes out, I don't know. But right now it's too much of a time consumer and I don't really want to be paying the money right now, so that's just how that goes. I also have several pets, but there is actually a pet related question coming up later, so anyway, that's kind of my hobbies outside of anime and manga. And finally, what made you start your YouTube channel? Now this is the question that I wanted to discuss a specific part of fandom, of anime and manga fandom, to be more specific. I've heard this question asked, many times of many other YouTubers, anime and manga YouTubers, and of course, quite often people say, oh, I just wanted to talk to other people of, my love of anime and manga, which is logical because we are kind of scattered all over the world and a bit far from each other. It's hard to meet up. That was a part of it. Another part was the fact that I wanted to promote kind of more historical manga. On YouTube, I remember that the only guy who covered, kind of older manga was Code Provider. And even then, at the time that I started, he had kind of stopped reviewing a lot of the older series. Maybe not because he stopped reviewing, but more because of the fact that he wasn't getting any of the more recently released kind of historical manga. But I wanted to cover that. But the main reason why I set up a YouTube channel was because I wanted to kind of fight against piracy. Now, piracy is rampant throughout anime and manga fandom. And I remember hearing a statistic, which was that if all the people who pirated anime and manga in, the UK and Ireland were to contribute about €1 or about £1, I think it might have actually been £1. Anyway, if everyone who pirated anime and manga in the UK and Ireland contributed £1 only to the anime industry, the anime industry would be about 3 to 10 times larger than it is now. So, that's an amazing figure, just showing how utterly rampant piracy is. And I was so stressed out, I remember, about piracy, and I was trying to figure out what can I do, and I ended up deciding to do a YouTube channel as to kind of get my opinion out there. Now, as time's gone on, I've become less vocal about it, mainly because I've already done a full video on, anime piracy, and my opinions of anime piracy. That, and there's some other far bigger YouTubers out there who have actually, opposed piracy. Arcada, GR Arcada, for one, he did a video, I remember, where he told people, you shouldn't pirate and there's no way you can justify piracy. So I absolutely respect him for that, I love him for that, because that's basically like the only major anime YouTuber that I've actually seen do a video like that, because it is a very dodgy territory. So that was one of the main reasons I wanted to, come along, and I'm not sure if I've actually convinced anyone online, to stop pirating and to actually buy their products. If you are watching this video and, I helped you, stop pirating and actually start contributing to the industry, I would love to hear that, because that would make me feel, amazing. That would, help me feel that I've truly accomplished something. Not to say that my other accomplishments aren't as good as that. That's kind of where I began, so I would love to hear that. I do know all the reasons why people do pirate as well, but it just doesn't justify it for me. So hopefully you guys will be okay with that. Hopefully several of you won't unsubscribe. It's not like I absolutely hate you guys because you're pirates. It's just, I really want people to support the industry that we all love. Anyway, that's kind of how my YouTube channel began. And yeah, that's Average Anime Fans questions. Next up is Bob Evans. Glad to see another one announced. I can't wait to see the answers. Thank you very much. My questions are: number 1, What do you look for in a character in an anime or manga for them to be considered one of your favorites? Okay, so first of all, I gotta analyze who are my favorite characters. Let's start off with my number one favorite anime character of all time, Lelouch Lamperouge. And the reason I love Lelouch is he's deep. He is kind of unpredictable. Like, it's very hard to kind of tell, you know, what he's gonna do. He faces a lot of conflict and he changes as a character. It's amazing comparing the Lelouch of episode 1 to the Lelouch even halfway through to the Lelouch of the end. There's so much change in characters and it's amazing. So I definitely want all those aspects. Another one can be just that they're relatable. I recently added to my favorite characters on Mal Sachiko Azuma from With the Light. And the reason I added her to my favorite characters is because I remember thinking about a live stream I did a few months back where Walking 00 Dead asked us, you know, what favorite female characters, like among the best developed that you can think of. And at the time, I couldn't think of any really good ones. The best I gave was Hinata, just simply because she had some kind of nice background development in Naruto. But I wouldn't class Hinata as a brilliant character. She's just, you know, a decent one. But when I was reading With the Light, I was just thinking to myself, Sachiko is so amazing. She truly does develop as a character from the beginning to the end. Maybe not in the more dramatic ways as Lelouch, but she definitely changes as a character. She learns to become more tolerant. And she's also, like, always amazing in how she can actually deal with the situations that she's put into, because there are so many situations in that series, and real life in autism, that would drive people insane, and do drive people insane. But Sachiko is willing to struggle through it, and basically, I absolutely love the character Sachiko. So, relatability, proper character development, likability, all those kind of aspects, you know, make me love characters. Now, that's not to say that, you know, bland enough characters aren't great. One thing I kind of realized when I was reading Attack on Titan recently is there isn't actually that much character development. There's revelations in Attack on Titan, but the characters are kind of the same from the beginning as they are now. But that doesn't mean I don't like the characters. I think Mikasa and Eren are still very cool, and there's some other great characters there. It's just that they wouldn't be among my favorites. So that's just something I kind of realized recently. Anyway, that's kind of what I look for in characters in anime and manga. Do you play any musical instruments? No, I don't. When I was young, I used to play the tin whistle and the flute, but that was because it was part of, you know, the educational program I was in. So I actually gave that up afterwards. And since then, I haven't actually learned how to play music, and it's not something that overly interests me. I like hearing music, but I'm not overly keen on the actual making of music. That's just my opinion. I know people love guitar and people love piano, etc., but I'm just not much of a kind of making music person. I'm not even that much of a music person, but I'll get to that later because there is actually a music-related question later. And this one I was very amused at. Will there be a sequel to Attack of the Vicious and Angry Shoes? Now, Attack of the Vicious and Angry Shoes is a video I did many years ago, I think about 2009. It was an idea I got one day, and it was just, you know, it's a short enough video. It's kind of a parody of the whole monster genre. It's very kind of amateurish, but I think it has a great deal of charm to it. And so I think it's still amusing. I watched it relatively recently. I can't remember when, but I watched it relatively recently, and I thought it held up decently well. You know, it's something that I can actually be proud of. Now, about the sequel, I did actually make a sequel. I made a, what was it, Attack of the Vicious and Angry Shoes versus the Slithery Socks. And I uploaded it onto YouTube. It actually was pretty crap, and you can tell it was crap because of the fact that I've actually removed it now. I was quite ashamed of it. It was just basically kind of a cash-in on the Attack of the Vicious and Angry Shoes. It actually got some opinions at the time, I remember, whereas most of my videos didn't get any kind of kind of discussions. So that was just it's basically a cash-in, and I wasn't proud of it, so I just removed it. And now I don't really want to do a sequel. It's a nice kind of nostalgia thing, looking at that. And actually, one day I would love to do a kind of like a Terrell video vlog. He's looking back kind of thing, because it's so long ago, and I really do think I could actually look at it and say, oh, this and this. I'd say I could talk so much about it. It would be nowhere near as funny as Terrell's. I'm not even sure if I'm saying him right. The Insane Game Freak. Basically, I would love to do that one day. Not soon, though. I have a lot of other stuff kind of lined up, particularly now that the copyright strikes are gone. But, I do intend to do something like that, and I do have a great deal of fondness for it, and I would recommend people check it out. It's meant to be kind of humorous. So yeah, I did actually make a sequel, but I removed it. Okay, so the next person is Jordan the Yukage Bradford, who I just want to do a shout out for. He was a great guy in my Long Live the Queen Let's Play. Had a great time, and I was actually really disappointed when we actually completed the game basically on our first go, that we didn't have to start the whole game over again. I had a great time in that. I just want to recommend him. So anyway. The first question is, do you remember how you felt watching your first proper good anime, e.g. anything with death or something in it? Basically, the first good anime that I want to discuss how did I get into anime? Because this actually relates to a later question. I'll just read it out now because it's a question asked by Cynical Noob later. He says, what anime got you hooked on the medium of anime? Basically, I just kind of combined those two questions together. Anyway. The way I kind of first got into anime was with the Studio Ghibli films. I bought all the Studio Ghibli films, I watched them all, I loved them all. Well, maybe like Tales from Earthsea wasn't great, but I still liked it. I don't think there's any Studio Ghibli film I actually dislike, but there are some that kind of do more for me than others. But anyway, I absolutely loved those, and I wanted to get more from the medium. I remember that I was playing Devil May Cry about the time, and I bought Devil May Cry the animated series, which at the time I kind of enjoyed, but it wasn't anything great, and now I've given it a 5 out of 10 on Mal. After that, I found out about Sengoku Basara. When I was young, I absolutely played the crap out of a video game called Devil Kings, which was actually a kind of release of Sengoku Basara. So I really wanted to see that series. And again, it wasn't bad. It's not brilliant, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. But the first truly good series that I got was Naruto. Now, when at the time I wasn't overly familiar with Naruto, I was getting into the anime medium. I'd heard a lot about Naruto, but I remember the very first time I ever came across actual Naruto was it was this ad for the Golden Joystick Award, and it has all these video game characters on it, even characters that aren't mainly associated with video games. Like I remember Darth Vader was there, but there was Naruto there, and I recognized him when I was like looking around and I'd go, oh, that's Naruto. So I really wanted to start getting into it because I've heard people say, oh, it's great, and other people go, oh no, it's not good. But I heard that it was like an important kind of gateway anime, so I really wanted to get into that. And I remember when I started it, I wasn't overly keen on it. The first 2 episodes I found kind of average. I had bought the first season, and I decided to watch the entire first season before making my judgment on it. But once I got to episode 3, I actually really started getting into it. And then, of course, as with most people who start Naruto, once you get to the the bridge arc, and Zabuza and Haku and all that, I absolutely found that amazing. And that scene near the end, I don't really want to spoil it for people who haven't actually seen that arc, although I'm not sure how many of them there are now. But the last part of that arc was so much more emotional than I had expected from Naruto, and that made me fall in love with the medium. That made me realize how strong the medium could be. And it was completely different from what I had been expecting. What I had expected from Naruto was kind of this, they hang around the Leaf Village for a while, and then they go off on a mission, and it's just kind of a filler mission, and then they go back, and then they go off on another mission. And I didn't really expect things to change like they do in our show. So I found that amazing. It surpassed my expectations by a large margin, and it raised my expectations for all the other anime series to come. So that was definitely the series that got me hooked on the anime medium. After that, the next question is, how many times have people mistaken you for being Scottish or some other nationality? Mostly on YouTube that's happened. In real life, what was it? I think this was more of a joke, but I remember, I think they were half serious. Someone asked me if I was Jewish, because I have actually a rather big nose, and I guess the black hair and the beard, so someone asked me if I was Jewish, and I went, no, I'm Irish. But mainly on YouTube, that's mainly where people have asked me, what nationality are you? There was someone, I remember in one of my videos, who was like, I don't recognize what part of Britain you're from. So they wanted to know, and some people have recognized that I'm Irish, but not many. And I guess the reason for that is when I was young, I wasn't overly social. So while I took in some aspects of, Irish accents, I mainly watched like British and American TV shows and movies, and I kind of developed an accent from that. So I would describe my accent as a blend of American, British, and Irish. That's how I would describe it. So yeah, I've developed a weird accent. That's the best way to put it. But I do like my accent. I consider it quite neutral, which is kind of what you want on these international, stuff. Anyway, so mostly on YouTube. That's kind of the answer there. How excited are you for J.J. Abrams doing the new Star Wars? How did you know I was a Star Wars fan? I don't know how that went. Anyway, okay, so J.J. Abrams and Star Wars. Let me start off talking about Star Wars. I really love Star Wars. It isn't the best franchise ever, but it's a very enjoyable franchise. And I did a Star Wars marathon on my events channel. Something I would recommend you guys check out. I had a great time during it, and everyone who was involved had a great time, and I think it's an enjoyable video. So I would highly recommend you check that out. You can get more of my opinions on Star Wars there. But I really do enjoy the franchise. Now, J.J. Abrams himself. J.J. Abrams, I have respect for. I haven't seen too much from him. I've seen Fringe, which I enjoyed. I've seen, what was it, Super 8, which, again, I enjoyed. But I think the most relevant, franchise that he's dealt with in relation to the upcoming Star Wars films is the Star Trek films. And the thing is, the Star Trek films are a bit weird for me. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I've seen all of the TV series, or all of the TV series. Like, I've seen the original series, I've seen Next Generation, I've seen Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, I've seen all the movies, I've even seen the animated series. So I'm a big Star Trek fan. But there is a style associated with those older Star Treks, more philosophical, more kind of about debates and discussions. There is action there, but the action isn't, the main aspect of it, like, say, in Star Wars. It's more about, like, how people should respond to certain ideas and developments and everything. So I really do love those original Star Trek series, and the movies. The J.J. Abrams movies, though, I loved them as a movie fan, but I hated them as a Trek fan. That's the best way to put it. And actually, in an interview, J.J. Abrams described himself as more of a Star Wars fan than as a Star Trek fan, which I can definitely see. So I'm not sure if he was 100% correct for doing Star Trek. Definitely, it's far more mainstream than it's ever been, and it's far more accessible. But it does feel very different to the original series of Star Trek that was released. And as a fan of Star Trek, I just couldn't truly get into them. But I did enjoy them as, visuals and, actual action, etc., etc. And I think that will lend itself very well to Star Wars. I think, as J.J. Abrams said, he's a big fan of Star Wars, and I think he'll be very loyal to the series. And I am looking forward to them. I'll be looking forward to seeing how it comes out. Now, for the next question, let's see, who's next? It is BDT87. So first question is, what are your thoughts on Studio Ghibli? Opinions, etc. So, as I said a moment ago, Studio Ghibli was basically the first anime that I ever actually saw. Well, certainly the first anime I ever actually knew was anime. I'd seen, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Digimon and all that jazz when I was younger, but I didn't know that they were anime. So Studio Ghibli was basically the very first anime that I knew was anime. And I found them amazing, I found them, revolutionary. I loved the artwork in it, I loved the storytelling in it, it blew my mind, for some of them. Now, some of them are a bit weak. As I said, Tales from Earthsea isn't exactly great. I wouldn't say it's as bad a film as many people make it out to be, but Tales from Earthsea is definitely, I consider it to be the weakest Studio Ghibli film. Another film that I wasn't overly keen on was My Neighbors the Yamadas. Now, when I say not overly keen, like if it wasn't a Studio Ghibli film, I would say, oh, it's a great film. But, comparing it to the quality set by all the other Studio Ghibli films, I was a bit disappointed in it. But I do love basically I love everything from Studio Ghibli. It just, some of them I'm not overly keen on. Now, with the recent retirement of Hayao Miyazaki, I'm not entirely sure how Studio Ghibli will progress. That's not to say that Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, the two oldest directors there, are the only ones who make good Studio Ghibli films. It's just that, they do make the best. Now, it will be interesting to see if the others will be able to rise to the challenges. I'm looking forward to seeing the next film. Oh god, what's it called? It has the same director as Arrietty. Arrietty I actually enjoyed. Some people really didn't like the story in Arrietty, but I enjoyed Arrietty. It was a beautiful film. I thought the story itself was charming, if not spectacular. But I did enjoy Arrietty, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the director can do with the next one. I'm trying to recall what it is. It's based on another British novel. I can't remember. But Studio Ghibli overall I really do love, and I'm enormously interested in anything that they release. The next question from BDT is, what are your thoughts on Disney movies? Opinions, difference between the two? What are the pros, cons, etc.? Now, I'm assuming the difference between the two is, Disney films in comparison to Studio Ghibli films. So let's start off with my opinion of Disney. So, like most people in the West, I absolutely loved Disney as a child. And I watched so many of their films, and even now I still have a great deal of interest in Disney. If I might recommend some of my favorite films from them, I absolutely love Pinocchio. Oh, actually, just to actually point out about Pinocchio, the thing about a lot of the earlier Disney films is they're actually quite scary for children. But children do love to watch them over and over again, and with Pinocchio, which I watched infinite times when I was young, I absolutely loved that. And the donkey scenes, let's just put it to donkey scenes. The donkey scenes just absolutely freaked me the hell out when I was young. But I absolutely loved it, and I watched it all the time. I absolutely love Dumbo. And one that I would highly recommend is The Lion King. The Lion King's great. I know that The Lion King is kind of a rip-off of Kimba the White Lion, but I haven't actually seen Kimba the White Lion yet. I'm hoping that eventually the manga will get released and I can compare it to The Lion King. But I haven't read Kimba the White Lion. Anyway, The Lion King's great. Another one that I would absolutely loved is Mulan. Although, when I was young, I was like any young boy, and I wouldn't watch a Disney movie where the lead character was a girl. So I never watched Mulan when I was young. And I watched it a couple of years ago when I was more open about the whole fact that, Disney heroines. And I actually really loved Mulan, and I'm really sad now that I was so ignorant when I was young and didn't watch Mulan, because I'm sure I would have loved it as a child. Anyway, I love those ones. Now, about Disney more recently, I do like the visual look that they've gone for in CGI, but I do find a lot of the more recent films to be overrated, particularly since after the whole kind of fall of Disney in the early 2000s, when so many of their films weren't great. The whole, everyone going, oh, it's the best Disney film since so-and-so, what with Tangled and what with Frozen, it sets up a very high expectations. Now, I wasn't expecting too much from Tangled, and I still managed to enjoy it a great deal. With Frozen, though, people overhyped the crap out of Frozen. And now, that's not to say I didn't enjoy Frozen, and in fact, one of the things I loved about Frozen was there's actually a great twist as to who the villain is near the end. I won't say who, obviously, but I really loved that twist. But I didn't find Frozen nearly as good as people were making out to be. So I was disappointed at that. I really do wish that Disney would actually kind of go back to the hand-drawn style that they used to do. Speaking of which, Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh are the two most recent kind of hand-drawn looking Disney films that they did. And I've seen both of them. And The Princess and the Frog is really good. It's as part of my 24-hour movie marathon. I remember I watched the last Airbender movie right before it, and I was depressed the crap out of. I watched Princess and the Frog, and it got me right back up. It was just, it made me feel really good, really happy, and it's a great Disney film. I really enjoyed it. Winnie the Pooh, the more recent Winnie the Pooh film, I enjoyed it. What really kind of threw me off a bit was that I watched Winnie the Pooh so much when I was young, and there are some changes in the more recent Winnie the Pooh film that I didn't really appreciate. I thought Rabbit was actually quite different to, how he was portrayed in the past. And what was the other, like that opening where Zoe Deschanel sells, Winnie the Pooh. It's like the original Winnie the Pooh was, the singing was so stuck in my mind that I was just thinking to myself, this is heresy. They should just reuse the original, Winnie the Pooh, and I would have liked it far more, or maybe been a bit more loyal. Like, I think Zoe Deschanel did it up way too much. Now, does that mean that I didn't like that movie? No, I enjoyed it. It's just, I did have some problems with it, so what can you do? Now, comparing Disney to Studio Ghibli, it's a bit hard to judge on that one. And what I really love about Studio Ghibli is that they're willing to tackle more topics than Disney. Like, for example, my favorite Studio Ghibli film is Princess Mononoke, and I cannot imagine Disney actually making a movie like Princess Mononoke. They did distribute Princess Mononoke, but even now I think they're like kind of having some problems with the fact that Princess Mononoke is so violent in comparison to Disney movies, and they don't really want to pick it up again for the Blu-ray release. So, which I find disappointing. Princess Mononoke is an amazing film, and as good as Pinocchio is and Lion King is, I don't think any of those Disney films actually match Princess Mononoke. Now, Finding Nemo, on the other hand, which isn't Disney, it's Pixar, I think actually does hold up very well against Princess Mononoke. I think of all Disney-related properties, considering Finding Nemo is made by Pixar, and Pixar at the time wasn't part of Disney, although Disney did distribute Finding Nemo, and now Pixar owned by Disney. Finding Nemo is an amazing film, and it is the best thing that I've ever seen come out of the Disney name. So, Finding Nemo, I would highly recommend. Far more than any other Disney thing that I mentioned. And I guess that's my opinions on the whole, Disney versus Ghibli. I spent quite a while at that, so hopefully that wasn't boring or anything. Hopefully it was entertaining. And the last question BDT asked me was first exposure to video games, first console game, etc. So, I remember this very clearly. When I was about maybe 7 or 6, something really young, my uncle got a PS1 and he wasn't interested in it. So he gave it to me. And he had some games with it, but they were all like, 12 plus and all that, and my parents didn't want me playing them. So I really wanted to play the PS1, so he rented a game. It was a game, Bugs Life, There was two Bugs Life games I remember that they made. One was kind of an interactive activities game, and another one is more kind of combat-y. It was the combat-y one that I played first, and I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. Of course, now I'm sure that the game wouldn't hold up nearly as well, but it was like so different to what I had done before. Now, as time went on, I steadily matured, and I eventually started actually playing RPGs mainly, Final Fantasy in particular. But my very first games console was the PS1, and my very first game was Bugs Life. So yeah, it was very nice of my uncle to do that, because it most certainly changed my life. Well, eventually I'm sure I would have gotten into video games, but it would have been at a much later date, so I just want to point it out. So I really do, thank him for that. It was a great gift, as you can imagine, a whole PS1 and several games, which actually I gave to my cousin, I remember, for safekeeping, that when I grew up I could actually get them back and play them. But I never did get them back, and probably because I never pursued it. I remember one of them was Tomb Raider, but I can't remember which Tomb Raider it was. It was a PS1 Tomb Raider, and never actually got to play that. So, yeah, I don't mind now. Anyway, I have so many games to play now that I don't really mind. But anyway, yeah, that's my first video game, console and video game. So, next question. From Manga McFly. Manga McFly, you only asked one question. I'll answer it, and I thank you for asking that question, but I'm a bit surprised that you didn't ask more. Anyway, howdy Immortallium. Greetings from California. My question is, which artist and writer would you love to see collaborate on a series? Now, I'm assuming that you mean, which mangaka writer and which mangaka artist would I love to see work together. And this might be uncreative, but I really would love to see a series from Yoshihiro Togashi, where he only did the story and that someone else did the artwork. I'm not entirely sure who would do the artwork. My favourite artist, well, among my favourite artists, would be the artist who did Death Note and Ralgrad and Bakuman. I always get their names mixed up, so I can't remember which one did the artwork. Was it Tsugumi or Tsubata? But one of those. But I would actually like to see maybe something very different looking. So maybe if Yoshihiro Togashi did the story for maybe a seinen manga, I would love to see someone like Masashi Kishimoto actually do the artwork for that. Considering that his next series will be a seinen manga. But I guess I wouldn't actually class Masashi Kishimoto as a brilliant artist. He's a good artist, don't get me wrong, but he wouldn't be a brilliant one. I'm kind of hopping around the fact that I really do love the artwork of, Bakuman and Death Note and Ralgrad, and that, I say that they're my favorite artists all the time, and I'm kind of trying to be a bit more original than that. But I guess I'm failing on that account. So, I guess in the end, Yoshihiro Togashi and the artist who did Bakuman, Death Note, etc., etc. Very uncreative now that I think about it, but who knows? That only applies if it's a shonen, though. If Yoshihiro Togashi wanted to do a seinen, maybe Masashi Kishimoto, maybe someone who actually does more seinen artwork, like for example, actually that wouldn't be a bad series. Actually, is it Tsutomu Nihei? The guy who did Biomega and Knights of Sidonia. I actually would love to see his artwork along with Yoshihiro Togashi's. And if Yoshihiro for some weird reason did a shoujo, I'm not entirely sure why he would do a shoujo. But if he did do a shoujo, I would actually love to see Mitsuri Hino, I think that's her name, the one who did Vampire Knight, do the artwork for that, because I think that would be very cool. Anyway, those are my opinions. Depending on the genre, obviously, I might be interesting to see like Mitsuri here, do like a seinen or a shonen series, like for difference's sake, and like for the others maybe to do, demographics that are out of their kind of comfort area. I'm not sure how that would develop though, and would it suit. Anyway, I've spent a while on that. So yeah, basically what I just said. Okay, next questions come from a Cynical Noob. I already answered your question, what anime got you hooked on the medium anime? Really was just doing Ghibli films for films and Naruto for anime series, and I kind of answered that already, sorry about that. Anyway, what inspired you to do an anime manga channel? I'm going to count this as different from, what inspired you to do a YouTube channel, and, count it as, like what inspired me to do an anime manga channel. I developed a great love of anime and manga about the time that, I started the channel. Now when I say that, I started the channel back in 2009, but I did, non-anime and manga related stuff because I didn't know about the mediums at the time. But back about over a year ago, I was massively into anime and manga, and I really wanted to, communicate with people, as well as, deal with the piracy situation. So I got, as part of this contest of MP14 animes, they did a contest, I wanted to participate, so I thought it would be a great way to, start doing anime manga related videos. It would, some people would check out my channel, some people would subscribe, that would give me a audience already. As well as the fact that I might possibly win a prize, etc, etc. I didn't win the prize, but, that's perfectly fine, I don't mind. Some people did subscribe because of that first video I did, the Otaku Collection video, and, it went from there. So, basically, what I really want to do an anime or manga related channel, because I don't consider enough people to, be doing anime or manga related stuff on YouTube, whereas I consider there to be too many people doing video games or films, etc, etc. And I just really wanted to talk to people about it. I wanted to deal with the piracy situation, as I mentioned. And also, there was an opportunity there, to go into the contest, to do a video, to get some people who wanted, more from me. And, then my next few videos would actually have an audience. Whereas if I started from nothing, it would be kind of hard getting people to start, getting in on the action. So that's how I kind of began the anime manga related side of my channel. And last question from you, if you saw a dragon, what would you do? Oh, that's a tough question. In all likelihood, I would probably run, although depending on the situation, I might choose to simply walk away, trying to not provoke the dragon. If the dragon actually started making moves towards me, I would run. Probably die, but, I would run. Whereas if the dragon hadn't noticed me, I'd just simply walk away. Now, I'm very skeptical that a dragon would be friendly, but if the dragon was somehow friendly and I somehow knew it was friendly, then yes, I would walk up to it. I might, try stroking it, see how it reacts, and then I want to try to contact someone as to figure out, oh, I'm the founder of the dragon species, I'm the first person to have conclusively proved that dragons do in fact exist and that they are not extinct. So, yeah, I would do that. And I'm sure that someone would, actually, I think if you were to give it a species name, then I would probably call it like Immortallicus or something like that, just because I think that would be great fun. Anyway. So that's how I would react if I saw a dragon. Either, almost crap myself and run, or if I somehow knew that, the dragon was safe, I would, approach it, take care of it, and then, contact someone, get conclusive evidence, prove that it did exist, and then become, a hit celebrity, obviously. Okay, so that's what I would do if I came across a dragon. Kaka 898979796. Here comes my questions. Which demographic of manga anime do you prefer the most right now? That's a bit hard to judge. Demographics, I'm assuming you're referring to shonen, shoujo, seinen, josei, etc, etc. And that's very hard to judge for several reasons. The first thing I want to point out is the fact that I'm very open when it comes to genre in general. If you've seen my movie collections, if you've seen my anime collections, if you've seen my manga collection, you'll know that I have a variety of series from all, the demographics. The smallest demographic I probably have right now is josei, yet One of my favorite mangas of all time does come from Jose. So I do consider myself very open in that regard, and in that regard I have no preference. I just simply want a great story. Now, when it comes to what do I end up getting the most of, the first thing I want to point out is that I generally buy Viz manga in general. It's not because I love Viz Media as a publisher or a distributor. I would actually class Vertical as superior, and maybe even Yen Press, because Yen Press actually do continue doing light novels, etc., etc. But the one thing you have to say about Viz over all of its competitors is that it is the cheapest. They release the cheapest manga, and that I'm a bit of a miser, I will say. I'm very careful with my money, so that appeals to me enormously, even though it's like a difference of €1. I'm just like, oh, I really want to get Viz Media related products because of the fact that they are much cheaper. I love omnibuses as well, and in fact quite often I'll get omnibuses from other distributors as well. But overall, that's why I have so much more Viz manga than I do, other distributors. Now, even within Viz Media, when it comes to Signature or Shonen Jump Advanced, they're more expensive than, simply Shoujo Beat or, Shonen Jump. Now, I can understand why the Signature series are more expensive, because they're bigger, because they have color pages, because they actually seem to have better paper quality, etc., etc. So I can understand that. Why Shonen Jump Advanced is more expensive, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's because it's slightly more niche than the other, like Shoujo Beat or Shonen Jump manga. But I have not seen any particular reason why Shonen Jump Advanced is more expensive. So that does confuse me. But because of those reasons, that makes me really want to buy more Shonen Jump manga and more Shoujo Beat manga, even though that's not necessarily my favorite areas to deal with. So that's kind of my reasoning for that. If everything was about the same price, I would buy way more, signature manga from Viz. I would buy a lot more older manga, from Vertical, as well as, a lot of, like, for example, Flowers of Evil and Knights of Sidonia. My problem with those two series from Vertical is that they're very pricey in comparison to Viz manga. I would buy, Gantz and Eden, It's an Endless World, and Berserk from Dark Horse. But, they're way too and Hellsing. I can't forget Hellsing. But they're way too pricey right now. Like, I don't really want to spend... I could buy them, but I don't really want to spend that much money on them because they are way more expensive than the other distributors, etc., etc. So that's kind of my reasoning. Oh, and Yen Press isn't that bad when it comes to pricing, but they are more expensive than Viz. So I guess demographically, I lean more towards, Viz, Shoujo, and Shonen. But that's not necessarily my favorite. It's more to do with the pricing because I'm so stingy. So that's kind of my reason. The actual answer to the question is I'm very open and I'm not really sure if there is actual favorite there. I just simply like getting manga that seem interesting and have good stories and characters, etc., etc. The next question is, do you like Angry Birds? No, I've never actually played Angry Birds. I've heard it's fiercely addictive, and that's one reason it puts me off. The other thing is that it just doesn't look interesting to me. I can understand why people do love Angry Birds so much. In fact, if I'm correct, on your channel, you actually have this big stuffed Angry Bird. So, and it's actually kind of cool looking. I can understand why they look so cool, because, they're iconic looking and they look very goofy and all that. And it's a very simple game, and it's very addictive from what I've heard. So, I can understand why people like Angry Birds, but it's way too blown out of proportion at this point. Like there's Angry Birds Star Wars, there's first-person Angry Birds, etc., etc. And I am very sick of it, and I don't think I'll ever get into it because of that. Plus, it's way too simple. I do love like complex games, like RPGs, like JRPGs mainly, but I do love like The Witcher and Elder Scrolls series, etc., etc. And I also love like strategy games like Total War, for instance, which is also very complex. So I do like complex games more than I do simple games. But I can understand why so many people who don't play video games in general do love Angry Birds. And then number 3, You have a chance to get 2 complete out-of-print manga. What do you choose? Okay, one is a no-brainer. Okay, so I know immediately which 2 I would want to get. And that is Phoenix from Osamu Tezuka and The Rose of Versailles from... I can't even remember her name. Okay, so Phoenix got released by Viz, and I think it got re-released as part of their Signature series when, Viz Signature came around. But a lot of Phoenix is fiercely out of print. Not only that, but I've actually heard the translations for Phoenix aren't that great. So even if I, had the opportunity to get the whole thing for like, a decent price, I'm not entirely, like, I probably would actually get it just because I've heard how amazing it is, but I would prefer if someone else would pick it up, would retranslate it and release it, at an affordable price. Anyway, Phoenix is definitely one of them. Rose of Versailles, I've heard, is amazing. It's, a revolutionary shoujo manga. I hear that its story is amazing, its characters are amazing, and it allowed, more development for female leads in anime and manga. It's quite heavily associated with Princess Knight and Revolutionary Girl Utina because of how it influenced how people viewed, female protagonists in manga. So I would love to get that series as well, Rose of Versailles. I know in America they've just re-released the anime of Rose of Versailles. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a re-release, actually. They've just released it. I'm not sure about the region coding on that though, so I would like to check that out. But anyway, yeah, so if I had the option of getting 2 out-of-print manga, it would be Osamu Tezuka's Phoenix and Rose of Versailles. Those are my 2 options, my 2 choices, I should say, so I would pick those 2. Next, only name available. Available. Only name available. Okay, so the first question. Imagine there was a worldwide agreement that you would choose 3 manga series to be distributed to every single person on Earth. What mangas would you choose and why? The important thing about that is that they need to be, kind of representative of the genres. They need to be accessible. Basically, they need to have the components of a gateway drug. And that is that they are, familiar, but not too familiar. Like, they have enough elements in them that one, who has not had anything to do with manga or anime can kind of understand elements to it. It's not too out there, but it needs to be different enough that it makes them pursue more of the, genre. And it would also need to be pretty accessible. It needn't be too complicated. So I guess 3 series. Okay, so first one I would pick definitely would be Message to Adolf. I think no matter who you are, if you enjoy a good thriller, a good mystery, etc., etc., Message to Adolf would work very well as an introduction, not only to manga, but also to Osamu Tezuka. So I think that would be a very good beginning. Another manga series that I would that would get people to read. That's a very hard one, because I can't even say my favorites, because, my favorites don't all come under that gateway drug anime and manga kind of thing. I guess maybe another one that I would pick would be, Death Note actually would be another good choice. And Death Note, as we all know, is definitely a gateway drug. It introduced so many people to the manga genre, to the anime genre. It's a great thriller. It's a great kind of a cat and mouse chase where you're not really sure who the cat is and who the mouse is. It's got beautiful artwork, and it's got Japanese elements like the Shinigami and the National Police Agency and all that. So yeah, that would be one definitely. And final one that I would pick. Let me see. Message to Adolf. Death Note. And I guess the last one that I would pick would be maybe Azumanga Daioh, because Death Note and Message to Adolf is quite heavy, so that's very dark and menacing. Azumanga Daioh is very kind of light, comedic, funny, charming. It's very different to Message to Adolf and Death Note. It has those familiar elements to it, you would definitely need the translation notes that it's given with, because it isn't 100% recognizable, all the jokes in it and all the gags and everything. But with the translation notes, you would get a lot of it. And even if you didn't have the translation notes, you'd still be roaring laughing at a lot. It just maybe wouldn't be as frequently. So I think as a Manga Dio, Message to Adolf and Death Note would be great choices for giving to everyone on Earth, and people would read them and kind of go, oh, Message to Adolf is very dark, and actually ask some very interesting questions, etc., etc. Death Note, there's a great kind of cat and mouse chase, and very engaging. Kind of throws you for a loop every so often, and as a Manga Dio, just simply charming and very funny and very at contrast to the other two. So I'd probably pick those. I'm not sure if they're the best choices, but from what I've read, I'd say those would be among the most accessible and among the most it would make people want to continue on with get more manga series, etc., etc. Okay. And I hope you liked these questions. Yes, I did. I enjoyed those questions very much. Okay, second question. What are your thoughts about the new Star Wars trilogy? Wait, didn't someone ask me that a moment ago? Yeah, I didn't even see that, actually. Jordan the UKG Bradford and only name available. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I read through all these questions before, but for some reason my mind must have skipped over the whole, Star Wars trilogy thing. So, yeah, I've already described my opinions on the Star Wars trilogy. I'm looking forward to it. I think J.J. Abrams will be more loyal to the Star Wars franchise than he was to the Star Trek franchise, etc., etc. What's your favorite movie? Excluding anime. Like, anime doesn't count. Okay, so among my most favorite films would be Princess Mononoke, but that's an anime, so that doesn't count. Another one that I really love is a movie called The Devil's Rejects. It's a horror kind of film, although it has elements of westerns and crime and road chase, etc., etc. in it. So it's kind of a horror film with a lot of elements in it, and I think it's fiercely underrated. I know not everyone loves it, and it's probably not the best film ever, but it's among my most enjoyable. So that's definitely one. Finding Nemo again was another one that I absolutely love the hell out of. I think that's brilliant. Seven Samurai, I would love to say. I've only seen it once, but I found that amazing when I watched it. The reason I've only seen it once is because it's 4 hours long. It's hard to make time for it, and I have so much new stuff to do, it's hard to get time to go back to Seven Samurai. With movies, though, I do like to rewatch them with friends, so maybe at some point I will have to show my friends, Seven Samurai, because of how great it was. But 4 hours, yeah, that's hard to make time for. Etc., etc. Yeah, those are my most favourite. I can probably keep going on. It's hard with movies to say my favourite, because I seem to have a favourite from each genre. Absolutely love Titanic for romance. I know so many people don't like Titanic, but I absolutely loved it. I remember being very depressed at the time. Not depressed for the standard kind of teenage melodramatic reason, but for another reason. But it kind of helped me get out of the mood, even though it ends very tragically, as you can imagine, if you haven't seen it. I really loved it. I found it really emotional. Comedy, I love Sideways, I love 500 Days of Summer, I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and also I love The Gold Rush with Charlie Chaplin. I find the cabin scene where it's dangling off the mountain one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. Etc., etc. I can keep going on and on forever about movies. Basically I have a favourite for each genre, and I can't really compare them all, but yeah, I've named several of my favourite films. So anyway, yeah, so next question is is Count Mecha. Did you have a teenage weeaboo phase? I didn't really. I only found out about the phrase weeaboo recently. And I when I was first getting into anime and manga, I wasn't that social. So, particularly about it, I mean, when I talk to people, that one of the last things I usually talk about would be anime and manga, because I hardly knew anyone who knew about it. And, therefore I wasn't, trying to throw in Japanese words, and, I wasn't going, oh, Japan's the Holy Land, etc., etc. Now, about that time, though, I was thinking, like, Japan is like this, amazing nation that, produces among the best things in the world, and, like, if I went there, I'd be truly happy, etc., etc., which was a stupid thing to think about. Japan's a country like any other. But I did have that thoughts in my head, so I guess that kind of counts as the weeaboo phase. As time went on, I realized that Japan wasn't as good as, it like some people make it out to be. It's a country like any other. Crime happens there. There are issues there, etc., etc. And I just kind of got over it after a while. I guess that's the best way to put it. Now, though, some people do still call me weeaboo, even though I don't. And I guess the only Japanese word I ever use is kawaii. Sometimes I do like go, oh, that's so kawaii, but I wouldn't really count that as a weeaboo thing. That's just my opinion. Anyway, do you have a favorite novel? Okay, so my favorite novels, I have several. Among my most favorite... Okay, so let me name a couple of them. Wuthering Heights. Absolutely loved Wuthering Heights. I had to do that in school. At first I wasn't too into it, but once I found out who was related to who, I absolutely loved it then. Another one that I absolutely love is Thomas Harris's Red Dragon. I actually think Red Dragon's better than Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal itself. I actually have Hannibal Rising to read. I got it for like €2 because I haven't heard that it's good at all. Well, I've heard mixed opinions of it, so I didn't want to spend too much money on it. Anyway, that's one of my other favorite books. I really love the Conan books, although Conan, like when I say Conan, I mean like Robert E. Howard. I guess like the biggest one was a novella, so I'm not really a book. I guess we can call it a book. So I really love those lot. There's some other books I really enjoy as well, but I guess those would be among my favorite. Wuthering Heights, Conan from Robert E. Howard, and Red Dragon from Thomas Harris. And so I'd highly recommend anyone who hasn't read those, check them out, because they're really good. Let me see. What are your favorite genres? Manga, films, or otherwise? Again, genres, I don't really, follow genres in general, simply because I really like, stories and characters. And if it doesn't really matter to me what genre it is, as long as it fulfills those kind of purposes. Now, when I was doing films, I kind of veered towards sci-fi and fantasy and horror. I really love those genres, but that's just kind of how it went. Anime-wise, if you look at my top 5, like Rin, Death Note, Clannad, Puella Magi, and Kogias, along with some other ones like Bamboo Blade and Welcome to NHK, they're all very different, and I love them all, enormously. So, I'm not really sure my favorite genre when it comes to like manga or anime. That's a very hard question to answer. That's all I can say. I would have to give a lot more thought to that. People have asked me that before, and I've kind of given the answers that I've given now. So, yeah, what can you do? Bark Nors, which did you find out about first, anime or manga? It was anime first. I got this list, top 500 movies of all time, and Akira and several Studio Ghibli films were on that, so that's how I started getting into anime. And it wasn't really until I got to Naruto that I kind of started to find out about manga. This is based on a manga. And the very first manga I ever bought was Soul Eater and Naruto, each one volume 1. So yeah, those are the first mangas I got. Way after I had gotten all the Studio Ghibli films. I'd watched, I think, the first Ghost in the Shell movie, I had, watched Devil May Cry and Sengoku Basara, and I, watched Naruto, and I think I might have been into Soul Eater, although I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, that's how it progressed. So, yeah. Do you have any pets? Yes, I do. I have a snake. He's a corn snake. Cornflakes the corn snake. Everyone laughs at Cornflakes the corn snake. What a name, right? Yeah, that's my snake. I also have a dog. Well, I used to have 2 dogs actually, but one died. Shadow and Prince. Shadow died from cancer last December, so yeah, that was tough. But his brother is still alive, Prince. They're both Cocker Spaniels. And, they're great dogs. Prince I still love very much. And then cats. I've had cats for many years now. I remember we adopted 2 cats from kind of a pound place. I can't remember. Yeah, a pound place. And while those cats are not around, their descendants, because they breed like crazy, are still around. So I still have those cats. So those are what I have: cats, dogs, and a snake. Dog, I guess, just to say. I'm still not used to that. And do you think your pets, if you've got any, would like anime or manga? Well, I was thinking about this question, and I'm going to turn that into a joke because I'm not really sure if it's a serious question. I don't think it's a serious question, so I'm just going to make that a joke. Cornflakes the corn snake probably wouldn't enjoy Naruto because of all the snakes that keep getting killed in that. I'm sure my cats would love to read Cheese Sweet Home, even though I haven't read it because it's about a cute, adorable cat that does, all those stuff. And about dogs, I'm not entirely sure what manga, dogs would be too into. Although I'm sure that they all would enjoy reading the election arc of Hunter x Hunter, considering all the animals there. Yeah, that's... and they probably get a bit of a kick out of Fruits Basket as well, considering, snake, dog, cats, etc., etc. So yeah. And final person, Archangel Manga. Number 1, if you could meet any mangaka in real life, living or dead, who would it be and what would you talk about? I think this is pretty standard, and I'm sorry for being so predictable, but it can't be anyone but Osamu Tezuka. And if I could talk to Osamu Tezuka, what I'd want to find out is, his influences for certain series, how he grew up. Of course, I've read his autobiography, so I know a lot about what he grew up, but I'd love to hear it from him firsthand, and, all those little details that wouldn't be involved in an autobiography. I would love to hear his opinions on, Western comics, because he was actually a big fan of Western comics. He was the chairperson for the Superman Society in Japan. And I would love to hear his opinions on Disney movies. And in fact, I would love to show him Disney movies now and see what he thinks, and, in comparison to what he used to watch before, etc., etc. So that's, I could imagine a million things I'd talk to Osamu Tezuka about. But I have half a feeling that after a while, Osamu Tezuka would want to get back to drawing manga. He was always that kind of person. And maybe he'd want to get back to making that, Papal States anime series to do with the Bible. Because he was apparently really into that around the time of his death. So, yeah, he'd want to do that. So I wouldn't keep him too long. I'd ask him some questions and then send him off on his way. But definitely Osamu Tezuka. What are you studying at college or university, and what do you plan to do as a career? I'm not entirely sure about the career yet. What I'm doing is multimedia, and what multimedia basically is it's like, dealing with HTML, JavaScript, animation in Flash and Adobe After Effects, filmography like cinematography, and recording sounds on mics, etc., etc. There's a lot of things in it. And it's not overly specialized, it's quite general, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it, because it leaves a great deal of opportunities for jobs that I can get into, particularly with how bad the economy is now. So, yeah, that would definitely, I want to do multimedia for that purpose mainly. Not only because I find many of the topics in it interesting, but because of the fact that it leaves so much opportunities for jobs. So that's why I haven't really nailed down what kind of job I would love to do. if I had like, you know, a dream world where I could do any job I wanted to, I would love to be involved in a creative medium. You know, like making stories. Like, for example, I wouldn't mind if it'd be film, TV show, manga, comic books, etc., etc. As long as I was, you know, storytelling. That's how I would love to do it. I would love to see my contribution to it, etc., etc., in any form. So that's kind of how, in a perfect world, that's how I would love to go. I wouldn't necessarily like to, you know, end up in a job where I'm, you know, sitting there doing, you know, the same HTML over and over again, you know, just, you know, with no real storytelling or creativity in it, etc., etc. So that's something I don't want to do. And the last one's, what kind of music do you listen to? I'm not much of a music person. Like, when it comes to music, mainly I listen to music on YouTube when I'm browsing the internet or when I'm in the car and I don't have a podcast to listen to. And I like lots of different music. Mainly my fix for music comes from soundtracks. You know, like anime soundtracks, film soundtracks. I love the soundtrack to, you know, Pulp Fiction and Gladiator and Star Wars, etc., etc. There's many great soundtracks out there. And I love anime openings as well. You know, of course, they're basically music videos, anime openings. So I find them really cool, you know, to listen to and to watch. And then when it comes to, you know, other music, it's very rare when I actually, you know, come across something by myself. Quite often someone will introduce it to me, and examples of that would be Rammstein. You know, someone told me about Rammstein and their style of music, and they made me listen to Son, and I absolutely love Son. And there's some other ones, you know, like I think Mein Herz, is that it? Mein Herz or Mein Brecht? I can't remember which one that is, but I love that one as well. I don't really pursue Rammstein though. I just kind of end up listening to the classics that I really enjoyed. Was Baby Metal? Was it? Zucchini? Oh no, there's a music video from Baby Metal that I really love. It's to do with the fox spirits, you know. And it's really good. I really enjoyed that. I haven't really checked out much of Baby Metal, mainly because, you know, I just like to listen to the same stuff over and over again as I browse the internet. And actually recently, what was it, BDT 87, he recommended to me this music video, Kira Kira Killer, and that is such an addictive music video. It's really good. So basically, I'm not overly into music. I do like, you know, kind of heavy stuff like heavy metal and all that. But I do like, you know, J-pop and all that. And mainly I like music associated with, you know, visual mediums that I, you know, kind of associated with, like, you know, TV shows and films, etc., etc. And also like music videos, just because I like to browse the internet and I don't really want to be, I don't want silence in my earphones, my headphones. But I like to have it over and over again because I don't really want to be browsing every time I finish a music video. So that's how I kind of go. I'm not much of a music person, but I do appreciate the, you know, the musics. And that's it. I'm half tempted to call this Immortallium the movie because of the running time. This is basically a short film. Well, not a short film, a short feature-length film from Immortallium. I'm not really sure how many people are still around at this point. You know, if you've watched this video and you've made it this far, you know, amazing, thank you so much. I thank everyone who sent in a question, or questions, I should say. There's some really good ones there. I hope you found this entertaining, and I hope you found this, you know, kind of educational, etc., etc. So thank you so much. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.